What's up, everyone? It's Joey, Blush Response, and welcome to the latest episode of Sound and Structure. Today, I'm interviewing Abby Echiverri, an amazingly talented electronic musician and also a live member of LCD Soundsystem. I visited her while I was in New York doing some live dates. Let's get right into it. So, hi, Abby.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm well, yeah.
You have a new album out called In Medias Res. Tell me about it.
Well, this is my first album. It's more like song-based than like dance floor tracks-based, I think. And a lot of the music was written before the pandemic. Like all of the dance tracks on it were written mostly for playing out live, and then they're super heavily post-produced and mixed with help from Oliver, who you know.
Oliver Chapoy.
Yeah, Oliver Chapoy.
The Spiral. Yeah.
The Spiral is his artist name, and he helped me with a lot of the mixing because I am not great at mixing myself. So he also added like a ton of production elements to it, and yeah, the inspiration for the album was initially just like make tracks for playing live, and then so there's different songs are pulled from different live sets over the last few years, and then as songs were like kind of rewritten and arranged more, it became like this collection of songs was chosen because it was kind of evoking a video game atmosphere, which I was like really, really into video games during the pandemic. So there's a lot of like sound designy sounds in it, and atmospheric pads and stuff like that.
I really love the pads. What did you use for them?
Let's see. A lot of it is the EX5, actually.
Okay.
I believe there's some Waldorf Iridium.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, there was the Waldorf Nave app, which is an iPad app, mm-hmm. and which basically the Iridium is another wavetable synthesis from them. So yeah, most of my pads are just those two things. Sometimes it's the analog keys, but yeah, most of them are digital sounds.
Yeah, they really have that kind of like choral, vocally vibe that I really love. Mm-hmm. And I have to say the whole record has this sort of like early warp, artificial intelligence aspect to it that it really speaks to my heart. Mm. Like B12 or Beaumont Hanat type of things. Yeah, I'll grab this water.
Yeah, I'm definitely inspired by like a lot of 90s music and a lot of ambient techno. Mostly because when I started making techno, you could feel free to put it on the table.
Okay.
I really struggled with like, I wanted to make simple music that was like a drum machine and a bass line, but like because of my background in classical music, I think I've always just been a melodic techno kind of person. Like I want to write chord progressions in my techno, and like when I first discovered like ambient techno and 90s warp stuff, and lots of 90s music that used pads, I was like, oh my god, there is a way to do interesting chord-driven techno that's not electronica or something like that. So yeah, that's like a lot of my music has been like kind of coming to terms with like, oh, it's fine to have melodies in music, in techno music.
I think melodies are definitely underutilized in techno, and I really appreciate that you brought that to it because they keep getting stuck in my head, and it's also not like they're well-constructed, elegant melodies. They're not, like catchy little annoying hooks or something. They're really, I really appreciate that. Back to what you said before, what video games were you playing?
Well, I was playing a lot of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
Amazing.
Horizon Zero Dawn was another one that I got really stuck in, and like to the level of like having to do every single quest and everything and trying to draw it out as long as I could. I really loved Hades. So I'm just like naming these because there are, like Lome is the title of a track, and that's a labyrinth in Breath of the Wild. So like there's definitely like songs that like make me think of certain scenes in the video games, and I would just like kind of expand on that emotion and inspiration. And Varatha, for instance, is it's a weapon in Hades, which I don't know if you played Hades.
I played all those games.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like. I don't know. I hadn't really. Obviously, video games were in my life because I grew up with a brother, of course. So it was always like there, but I never really like thought I could. I guess I was like intimidated by like how good everyone else was. I didn't realize that like it's okay to like be bad at video games and just like get better. And yeah, it really helped me get through the pandemic in a cheesy way. So yeah.
Me too, though. I've gamed. I never gamed so much except for when I was a kid. Like now again, it feels good though. Like I just finished Elden Ring.
Oh my God, such a great game.
Have you played it?
I haven't played it, but my partner just finished it, and I just love watching also like people play video games, especially like Souls-like, because I'm not good at combat, so it's just like nice to watch other people do it.
Horizon is kind of like a mini Souls-like, a bit with the combat.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I love everything about Horizon.
Did you play the sequel?
Yeah, I'm playing it right now. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I was into it, but then Elden Ring came out, so I got like 30 hours in.
Came out the same time. I don't know what they're thinking.
I mean, I think they still sold well in the end.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the album. What would you say are like the main voices of the album, the main instruments?
Well, there's definitely like a lot of pads. I think that album has a ton of 606. Not like kick drum, but processed 606 hats and snares and toms. I've always loved the toms. There's the rhythm. I used rhythm for I've probably used it on every song I've released at least that has beats in it. And then a lot of the melodies are in the Eurorack. So yeah, there's the kind of more forward sequenced stuff, which is Eurorack, and I use so much of the Metropolis sequencer just to like get ideas. And then and the bass line is pretty much all Zox Heart.
I was wondering.
Yeah. I can't remember if I don't think I had the Pro 1 yet. A lot of my bass lines now are Pro 1, but most of the bass lines are Zoxbox. And yeah, so it's all of those. It's really like quite simple, the gear that I have. Like I don't like spending a lot of money on vintage gear, but luckily all of it's being reissued now, and I think the reissues, if you process it enough, can sound just as good. But yeah, those are the main elements, and then I would include plugins as an element because there is a ton of pitch shifted delay throughout the album, and a lot of the sounds are like the EX5's like percussion sounds through pitch shifted delay.
Which pitch shifter?
I use a lot of Valhalla plugins, and they have multiple like delays. I've also used Eventide stuff, the H9, and Oliver I'm sure uses like a crazy amount of plugins that I don't even know. I know he uses a lot of universal audio. And yeah, and then I use some sound toys and stuff in there too. So yeah, there's a ton of processing in the album.
Can you talk about your basic process for constructing a track?
Well, when I'm writing a live set, it's usually begins with, I know like what kind of venue I'm playing and what the crowd is, and then I will start off with being like, okay, this is like, I want to do more housey stuff or more like polyrhythmic techno or like whatever, and then that'll give me the BPM range. Like I'm operating a pretty tight BPM range for the live set, and then I'll program some drums, program some interesting chords, and then just like keep adding layers. And like when I get tired of writing one, like my live sets are separated by songs and with like a seamless flow. And yeah, when I'm out of ideas for one section, I'll like start writing another one and move things around. And so that's like the beginning of a live set. And then the hardest thing to do is like to take a live set, to come home, take a live set, and then separate it into tracks and finish the tracks, which I can do because like my live sets are like all MIDI information. So I recreate everything pretty easily and record it. And then once the take has been recorded and multi-tracked, which, you know, will be like 10, 20 minutes, like a really long take, that gets arranged and cut down. And usually it's like, there's too many elements happening at once, and then I just have to delete a bunch of stuff. And then from there, it's like, add a ton of interesting dubbed effects and make that part of like the structure of it as well. So there's like not a ton of, there's the idea of like, oh, there's the take, which is like, it gives it kind of like the improvisational feel, but there's not a ton of like overdubbing on top of that. I guess like adding effects is kind of like overdubbing in a way. So that's the process. But it changes every time. Like if I'm doing like an ambient track, it could be quite different or something like that.
What is your live setup?
Usually, well, for the past couple of years, or I mean, I don't know time anymore, if we're counting the pandemic, but for the past few years,
It's been a time warp.
It has. It's been the 2-row Eurorack, the rhythm, my laptop sending MIDI to everything, and then I'll usually have one more synth on top of that. Like I've been bringing the Pro One a lot because it's pretty fun to adjust on the fly. And usually like that other synth will be hooked up to the sequencer, and I'll try to like do live sequencing and just like introduce a jammy element. Sometimes I'll bring the mono grids, which people just love watching you play with that. So like it adds just like a visual element, and it's kind of, yeah, it's a fun thing to play.
The mono would be hooked to USB with your laptop?
USB to, I have the White Whale, which is like a USB interface.
Oh, right, okay.
So that's just like a 16-step sequencer, or whatever step sequencer you want. So yeah, sometimes I'll do that if I feel like it. I would like to bring the Iridium out, but it's kind of like having another computer.
It's also almost as big as your whole modular.
Yeah, exactly.
So with the live set, when you said you took these tracks from stuff you had constructed for live, are they recorded when you play live? Or are you just then going back into the studio and recording them relevant to the performance?
I record it. I go back to the studio and I record it again. And I'll often reference the live recording just to like be like, to figure out an arrangement that works or like didn't work. Because when it's live, it's pretty much just turning on and off MIDI sends and drum tracks, and you know, just like trying to come up with an interesting builds in energy and drops in energy and over and over again. So yeah, just like every time I play it, it'll of course obviously be different. But then I'll listen to the recording if there was one, and then redo it at home, but multi-track it so that I can have full control over how to mix it and stuff.
And you're recording in Ableton, I guess?
I am. I do sometimes, if I'm like really motivated, I'll break it out into Logic when I'm mixing it. But for the most part, once I've like finished the arrangement of a song, I want to get it out to the world as fast as possible so that I don't get sick of it, because I definitely get sick of things.
Oh yeah, me too. I hate waiting.
Yeah.
I have a new album that's been in the plant for like over a year. It's finally coming soon.
Oh my gosh.
Just because of vinyl delays.
Yeah, I'm really worried about that, because I have some vinyl planned, but I'm so detached from things I've done sometimes. But I don't know, I'm finally reaching the point, I think, where I look back on some of my music and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm kind of proud of that. I'm not embarrassed by like that one note that sticks out or whatever. But yeah.
Some people probably think that note's the best part.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to get over that perfectionism, but.
Oh, totally. I think, it's never totally right, like, because you're not hearing the song as is, you're hearing like every decision you could have made.
Mm-hmm, yeah. But I think working with Oliver has been really great, because like so much of those decisions are like so subjective, and I always tend to mask like composition ideas that I didn't think were very strong by overstimulating the listener, by like adding tons and tons of layers of like things happening, rhythms happening. And he's like taught me that like it's so much better to just like have one thing shine at a time. Or he didn't say this to me, but he's just like, let's mute that for now. And like every time like he takes something away, it's like I'll listen to it and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm like trying too many ideas at once. So yeah, I guess like I'm starting to like my music more the more space there is for everything. And yeah, it's just like a thing I did when I was just starting out. It was just trying too many ideas, I think.
I mean, in a way, it's cool to have, stuff to take away rather than to have barely enough. You know?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the people that can make music that's just the basics are also just like, I don't know, that means that like the ideas are really good. And I don't know. I'm not quite at that point, I don't think. Like, I feel like I have more of like a sound design approach to writing techno, which is like really like all about the post-processing, and that's fine. That's a different thing.
I mean, it definitely works for you. Back to the minimalism, I remember reading an interview with Perk where he talks about that when he's making music, he's always like going to his browser, checking his email, looking at other things, maybe watching TV or something. And his music is so minimal and it's cool. And I was like, yeah, because it's like really casual, his approach in a way, which is completely opposite for me, and I'm guessing for you, where it's super focused.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I wonder if minimal people are more casual in general. What would you say Oliver's role is in the production?
Well, I sent him the Ableton tracks that I thought were finished, like pretty close to finish and just needed leveling. But he did a ton of plugins and really interesting arrangement changes. So yeah, there's like a lot of stuff that he could hear that I was like trying to make something, do something crazy with the panning, but then he would like add like another level of modulation to it. So there's a ton of extra modulation, I would say, and effects that weren't there when I sent the music to him. And he also just has a really good ear for bass, which I struggle with kick drums and bass lines a lot. And yeah, he was able to make all of my kicks sound good. So that's cool.
The record sounds incredible.
Thanks.
Like really, really perfectly mixed. So
Nice.
kudos to him and you. I'm lost my train of thought here, but I'll get it back. Oh my god, I totally lost it. Anyway.
It's all good.
We're gonna take a second here while I recollect my brain from outside my head. What's your favorite voice in the Modular?
Oh, I guess it depends on what I'm doing. I've used so much of the localic Echiverri just because I feel like there's not a lot of stuff that sounds like that. I really love digital sounds. The NTO, the Surge oscillator, sounds really good if you're making like more ambient music. It's like what I would consider like a good sounding oscillator, whatever that means. But like it has the variable output, which is just like a wave folding. And yeah, I really love the sound of it. But I would say when I'm doing like techno, I love the localic. I need to like update my modules a little bit because they're all like from years ago.
I mean, but they're all really solid.
Yeah. This is like my live configuration right now, I think. I have a lot of modules in the closet, but yeah, this is like mostly what I tour with or play live with. I don't really, not quite at touring level.
All right, I remember my question from before. I was going to say that you have a lot of really cool samples on the album.
Oh, yeah.
So how much would you, how do you pick your sample sources?
I'm so bad at samples, I feel like, but I don't know, because I would like to do more sample heavy, like house music, for instance, but I never really know how to do that. So like most of my samples are just vocal from interviews and like things I found really funny or interesting from performance art pieces, or like I think I have like a Debbie Harry like little snippet of her saying something in there in the album. I don't remember where exactly, but yeah, I just like find interesting voices and have like a huge folder of just like random snippets that I'll use, but they're pretty much all just like people talking, like nothing more interesting than that. I did try to like do like, I think I also have like some samples I took of like banging pieces of metal together, and that's like the weirdest I've got, or like not weirdest, but that's like the farthest I've gone with like, oh, I'm gonna take a microphone and just like actually sample stuff. So yeah, a lot of it is from, like archive.org or like just like UbuWeb or something like that, just like interviews and stuff.
What's UbuWeb?
They just have like a lot of like old interviews. There's also like Electronic Arts Center mix. I use like interviews from there and stuff like that. So
okay,
it's pretty wide ranging.
So are you picking the samples when you make the track, or are you just always sampling stuff and then looking through it later?
It's usually I'm picking the samples. Like I have a track and I'm like, it's pretty bare bones, and I think it would be interesting to add like just one more element that's not a melodic element. And so I'll usually find some samples and then try them out. But then like a lot of times I'll reuse them later on, like for the intro to live sets, like I'll like often use like the same, like an interesting sample or like the outro, or like use it at both places, and like just because it's a nice way to end a set without like stopping.
How would you trigger it live?
So I have this like MIDI controller that's like for VJing over there. It's like a Behringer, but it has like encoders on it. So I use that to control Ableton, just because I don't like anything with like the fixed pots. So the encoders will can control anything, and then I have like a bunch of sample pads, and I'll have like some sort of instrument, Ableton instrument with a bunch of samples on it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what are you working on now?
So interestingly now, I've been in a little bit of a hiatus because I have been playing with LCD Soundsystem since September. Well, we've been in rehearsal since September, and that was like, to try to balance that with writing music regularly is really hard. And so now I'm just kind of looking at it like with my schedule, at the gaps in my schedule, I try to work on one release at a time, and then try to submit it, or if I'm self-releasing it, I'll just self-release it then. So like January was a gap for me where I was able to release in Matus Res, and then and my next break isn't until July, basically. So I'm gonna be working on 2 EPs then for 2 different labels.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are you using for LCD?
I am using a lot of stuff. So part of the goal for like, we had some very long, like 3 months of rehearsals last fall, was to downsize the setup I was taking over, which was all a very like big Eurorack system of mostly analog systems modules. So we wanted to change that so that it wasn't like each song was like, because you can't do too much live patching. So the Eurorack for Reina system just kind of kept growing bigger and bigger. So a lot of that was replaced with like the Syntrix, for instance, replaced 3 modules, or a bunch of modules really. So that's kind of doing the EMS sounds, and then I have a Matrix Brute as a controller mainly, but it is doing some sounds as well.
What a controller.
I know, right? I mean, it feels good. So yeah, a Matrix Brute is like kind of like the main controller on my side of the station I share with another person. A really small Eurorack system, and I have a custom mixer that I'm using that's just kind of an effects mixer with delay and reverb. So
which delay and reverb?
Holy Grail and Memory Man. Okay. Classics. And yeah, and there's like an Evolver and SH01, just kind of like a couple small guys. So I'm mainly playing with that Syntrix, Matrix Brute. I guess I'm also playing on the other side of Microkorg, using MS-20 as a filter for a lot of different sources. And yeah, and then I play Krumar sometimes. So yeah, there's a ton of synthesizers.
It's really compact, huh?
Not so much.
So is the Matrix Brute controlling main stage, or?
No, it's just it's mostly, what does it control? I mean, it's controlling the SH01 and the Evolver.
I see.
Yeah, just like as a MIDI controller. I mean, but yeah, there are definitely sounds coming from it as well. And then we have an MPC that like will send triggers to it. And also like it's processing the Microkorg for one song. So there's a lot going on. But the main reason we are using that is because of the preset memories. Like, because like obviously your rack doesn't have presets. So like changing between songs is really fast now. And what else? We're barely using that for what it's capable of, I guess.
Okay.
But it's a great MIDI controller.
Totally.
Yeah.
So how do you like playing with them, and how was Saturday Night Live?
It's really, really fun. It's a big band. Like, wait, 1, 2, 3. There's 8 members, so it's like it's really nice to play with people, because like playing solo techno can be, if you make a mistake, it's just you. Whereas like if you make a mistake with a band, like sometimes it's kind of funny, and like there's just like I guess it's just nice to have people around. SNL was really, really fun. I thought I was going to be nervous, but they put us in a sketch and in the middle of our 2 performances. So that kind of like took us out of like our heads of like, oh yeah, we're playing in front of millions of people. And yeah, I thought it was like, I've never been on a live TV set, so it was just like really cool to see like how professional everyone was in terms of like getting things out on time and stuff like that. So it was a really cool experience. Yeah.
Awesome. And what are your next tour dates with them?
Let's see.
Or whatever you can announce, at least.
Well, the ones we have announced are in London in the end of June. Yeah, I had to think about that. Yeah, so London, and we have some other dates. I don't think they're announced yet, but I'm excited to be in London because I really love that city, strangely, for the food.
It has great food.
It's such good food, yeah.
Especially the Indian food.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's like the main reason I like touring, is to eat.
Oh,
yeah.
Every time I play in London, I put it in my writer that they have to take me for Indian food.
Nice. I'm forgetting the name of the Indian place I really like. Oh, but if I remember, I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
it's
please.
like well located, like easy to get to too.
Okay.
Oh, Nidu? Have you been to Nidu?
I don't remember at this point.
Anyways, I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I've done a different one every time, but the last time I was in London was like, I think 2018 or 19.
Yeah, same. Must have been there.
Time has flown by so fast with COVID.
Yeah. I really love London. James from LCD has a studio there, so before the pandemic, I would get to go there to like work on studio stuff and then just like walk around the city and explore, which is really nice. And I was working with Soulwax before LCD, so they like, I don't know, I was very close to London and it was just like nice to visit and stuff like that.
So you do write music with LCD as well?
Not yet. So I hope that I get invited to write music. I haven't written anything yet though. The last album they put out, I was just their tech, so just did synth stuff.
Still cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's
Thanks.
amazing. What you said you're gonna make 2 new EPs. Do you have ideas for them down or?
Yeah, I do. Cause like the album, I self-released in Medes Res, but they're not really like tracks arranged for the dance. Like there are dance tracks on it and they are DJable, but that wasn't really the focus of the album. It was more about like making music you could listen to start to finish. So I want to do an EP of tracks for DJing, like that's kind of the focus. And then I want to do an EP that is more, I don't know how to, like it's geared for the label I'm writing it for, but I don't know how to like sum up that type of music, but a lot of my friends call it Harry Potter techno.
Okay, why?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, tell me.
Or like, because I hate the term hypnotic techno.
Okay.
Just because it's like, I don't know. I have issues with like different, like, or like experimental, like everything's experimental, man. But yeah, I don't know. I'm doing basically a more like heady polyrhythmic EP. So that I'm excited for because I've never released on a European label, so I would love to kind of expand my audience, because a lot of my fans are like my New York friends. So yeah, I'm excited for that one.
That should be cool. I want to hear some of that if you have a chance.
Yeah.
You also did a video game with your new album. Tell me about that. How did that come together?
Well, basically, when I was really bored during the pandemic, I put out an EP in June that was like all about like geometry, because I was just starting to get interested in teaching myself 3D modeling. And at first I was like, I wanted to learn 3D modeling to do more mechanical engineering kind of stuff, because I'm an electrical engineer and I've never been very good at mechanical engineering. And then I like kind of like started 3D modeling because it was really fun and just like doing weird things with it, and then realizing that like so much of what I had been learning to try to get better at mechanical engineering could actually like be taken into a video game environment. So a lot of like the stuff in the video game, like all of the, oh sorry, doorbell's ringing.
That's okay.
A lot of like I guess like actually everything in the environment of the video game I like modeled myself. And there's a few like things, like inspirations that I was, that caused me to like do the video game. And part of it was like, I was really tired of being at home and I was becoming really manic, like where I was like, let's rearrange the whole house, or like, let me knock down a wall, or like do some like crazy like stuff to make the house like feel like a different environment. And then I just started like modeling like my dream house in the 3D modeling software I was using, and it just became like this whole like dream of like where I was envisioning this like building that would, I don't know, just like every room was like a different environment. Like there's the ballroom, there's the garden, the restaurant, and I was just kind of just like making my ideal like versions of all of those things. And then like I like that kind of like influenced the music that I was mixing and arranging at the time, where I was like, if I had like any kind of music that was playing in this video game, what would it be? So yeah, there was a lot of like video game things that were that was feeding like the creation of this album. It's like both like I was playing video games and I was making video games, and it was just like, you know, there was just like this environment that was like being created in my head that I wanted to make music for. So that's kind of why I think the music is not really like for a club, really. It's just like more like the idea of like you're exploring like an unknown planet or whatever, and like this is like the mystery behind like what you're seeing and discovering. So I don't remember the question was, but yeah, that was like what happened.
Great answer. Yeah. Don't worry. You took us to a good place there. I think that's actually all I had to ask about. Is there anything you want to say or announce, or? I have a bunch of DJ gigs coming up. Okay. Where are you going to be?
I'll be in Providence on May 7th. I've never really hung out in Providence. And then I'm playing elsewhere on May 20th. And then I am DJing the Bunker in Detroit for Movement Festival weekend. And then, is that all I have announced? Yeah, that's all I've announced. Okay. I'm really careful now because I'm like, oh, there's so much stuff happening, but I can't say it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and you've been saying it differently. I thought it was in medias res, but maybe I'm hearing it wrong.
I honestly don't know because I don't speak Latin. But it's called that because it means in the middle of things, whereas my first release was at the beginning, ab initio.
I was totally off. I thought it had to do with like media resolution in a video game.
Well,
or
that's
something.
what kind of like, I feel like I was attracted to it because it could have been thought of as resolution. So yeah. But yeah, in the middle of things, which I'm currently at. I'll never reach the end.
Well, the album's really cool, so buy it, everyone. Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that. As always, if you're interested in supporting me, please check out my Patreon. Don't forget to smash like and subscribe here as well. Peace out.